You started BrightStar Care. It's a home healthcare business. You grew it to $750 million in the franchising space.
And I almost sold to the wrong buyer, and I stopped the transaction 10 days from funding.
Wow.
And terminated exclusivity. What I saw was that founders don't have anyone who's on their team that doesn't have a misaligned financial interest.
You've set up an incredible program at University of Tennessee, Knoxville, your alma mater, for franchise development and learning for students, tomorrow's leaders, tomorrow's potential business owners. And then you've also launched this founder-to-founder business model where you're mentoring, I think primarily female-owned businesses, but not exclusively, and you're also investing in businesses that are growing. So talk about sort of that next chapter where you've moved from operator, entrepreneur to, investor, mentor, philanthropist, and how difficult has that transition been? But also, obviously, you're making an incredible impact along the way. So I got to believe that given your set of values and purpose, it's relatively easy to get out of bed in the morning and want to go do that.
Yeah, so in the University of Tennessee franchising program, COVID was so hard for so many of us, but when every single day the most vulnerable during that were our country's grandparents, the pressure that I could work one more hour and truly save lives was hard. It was the first time over a long period of time that I felt the weight and the guilt of not being the mother I wanted to be because I was giving so much of my business and my children kind of had to come second. And so 6 months into stabilizing the business in COVID, I had to have something to look forward to. And I reached out to Cordell Riley, who's had been a good friend. He's one of the best adult teachers I'd ever seen. He had a business that he sold into a franchisor brand called Tortle. And I said, Cordell, if I was going to fund an endowment to my alma mater, University of Tennessee, to build a franchising program, would you be willing to instruct it, develop the content and instruct it? And he goes, I'd be honored. I said, obviously, I have to make sure the university is getting enough from me to pay you for that, but not a fraction of what he's worth. And he said, yes, I would absolutely do it. So that was part of the equation. It gave me something to look forward to even before I'd sold the business. But franchising has been such a huge opportunity to scale our business, and I believe in it so much. But how franchising stays special is the new franchisors that are coming up and through do it the right way. Mm-hmm. And that means creating a successful, profitable business model for their franchisees and giving them an appropriate level of support. So we have some undergraduate content, set that aside. The biggest way the program started was a certificate program. And any emerging franchisor, any veteran, minority, or woman can go through the program for free.
Wow.
I pay 100% of the tuition. And so being able to have the power of learning how to do it right, how do you, as a potential veteran who might start a business and start it as a franchisee, a minority who can create generational wealth by starting a franchise, a woman, same thing, like being able to have an opportunity to do that. There's so much content on how do you evaluate a franchise system. How do you make sure you have the right capitalization for a franchise system? How do you grow a franchise system? But also emerging franchisors, there's so much to learn about putting yourself in the shoes of a franchisee. And that's our responsibility as a franchisor, is to do the right thing by them.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my great unlock. I needed something to do. There was, a reason that I sold that was, and that we might get to, but, going through COVID and I was a single mom, I promised my children they would never be second in my life again. And one of my children is neurodiverse, and he was going to be going off to college, and that was going to require nearly full time for a period of time to help him be successful, and he's wildly successful now, and I couldn't be more proud. But we got there because I was able to have the flexibility to go live in the same city where he's at for months. And that wouldn't have been possible if I was still running BrightStar. Mm-hmm. And so BrightStar started because I had a why. Founder to Founder started, and ultimately Next Phase Capital, which is my family office, started because of my why. As I went through as a founder who had never sold a business, with a business that I believed in and wanted to continue to serve moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, and franchisees in the right way. So the selection of my buyer mattered a lot. And I was, in some ways, misled. Investment bankers you'll hire, oftentimes they are trying to steer the founder to a buyer that they're going to do repeat business with, even if it's not the right buyer for the founder. Because the money on the fee doesn't matter as much as the repeat relationship. And I almost sold to the wrong buyer, and I stopped the transaction 10 days from funding.
Wow.
And terminated exclusivity, went back to my backup bidders, grilled them extensively, said, I'm not a forced seller. I've got a great business. I will return to it. My child is now stable. I will return to my business. And the Peak Rock Capital is ultimately who I sold to. I had such alignment. We start every board meeting with quality and safety on our clients, not financial metrics. They were aligned with me on my why and the legacy. And if we do the right things with quality and our customers, the results will follow. And so what I saw was that founders don't have anyone who's on their team that doesn't have a misaligned financial interest. And so how do I help founders get their businesses ready for sale before they're ready to sell? Because it usually takes 1 to 2 years to get the people right, to get the data right, clean up everything, make sure you don't have too many adjustments in your data. And so I wanted to help founders get ready for sale. But in being in that, a lot of founders don't have the excess cash to be able to make the investments necessary to getting the best outcome when they go to sell. And so it kind of went hand in hand. I want to help founders. I do have a whole dedicated channel to women, but all founders. But I'm like, you know what, if I could help founders put off taking institutional capital for an extra couple of years by bridging that gap and making a minority investment, rolling up my sleeves, helping them get more ready with their team, with their technology, with their marketing, with their financial data keeping, all of that, they'll be much more successful.
Yeah.
So I made 8 investments since I sold, 4 of them franchising, 4 of them not, 6 of them women, 2 of them men.
Incredible.